It's like I'm walking on sunshine.
It's like I'm walking on sunshine. Welcome to DOOMCAST. I am Charlie McGrath, your co-host, along with Doug Owen. My website is wideawakenews.com, and of course, Doug Owens is blacklistednews.com. We welcome you to DC number 4 on this Wednesday, 21st day of August 2013. And what a crazy, crazy day. What a bunch of news to report over the last week. First of all, I want to say to everybody listening live on Spreaker, welcome to the program. And say to everybody who's downloading this or watching it later on YouTube, listening to it later on YouTube, thank you very much for the support. We have had outstanding support, and I want to take this minute to thank everybody for that support. As you listening right before we went to begin recording here, heard Doug and I, this is a project that we are forming as we go forward. We needed to, there was never going to be a good date to call, bam, so-and-so on this day, we're going to start the Doomcast. We just launched it, and we're both having a lot of fun and getting a lot of good response. Doug Owen, would you like to talk about that a little bit before we get rolling into some very doomtard? That's what I got called the other day, a doomtard. Some doomtard.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, you could put that at the end of anything. Conspiratard, libertard, I guess conservatard.
Crashtard, and you know, this is all meant in good fun, so hopefully we're not offending anybody. I'm sure we are. But my friend Christina Cancelo, although otherwise known as the Rad Chick, she coined, at least as far as the first person I've heard to say, crashtard. And I'm a crashtard because I'm always talking about the crashing economy. And she's a Fukutard because she's always talking about Fukushima. So
big headlines. I mean, it's not going well, and even Reuters and BBC has a new piece about this situation. Now they're talking about ice walls. I mean, it's sounding more and more like the BP scandal, the Macondo oil well by the moment, and it's been languishing here for almost 3 years.
And getting worse and dumping more radiation into the ocean. And the people like Christina, like Jeff Brentz, who've been just adamant about keeping this story in front of especially alternative media, they're proven to be exactly right. This problem isn't even remotely started yet, close to being finished yet. It's amazing how us fill in the blank tards get chastised for spending too much time on a topic or not moving speedily along like the news cycles of the day. But in reality, a lot of this stuff we're dead on. We're right on the money. And one of them is Fukushima. Another one is that I want to get into here in a minute, but I'll let you kind of kick off which way you want to go. But the Syria debacle continues to rage. And I definitely think that's news that's worthy of talking about this last week.
Well, yeah, and just to kind of wrap up what you were saying earlier about gauging where we're going with the show. I know some people don't want us to talk about the show itself, but I think that it's a collaborative.
Well, let's talk about the show for the next hour.
Yeah, it's something that when you put your time and effort into it, you think a lot about, because you don't want to just be repeating the same thing over and over again that other people are doing. So you want to make sure that you're kind of at least trying your best to think outside of the box and bring something new and edgy to the show. And I think that we're definitely going to do that. So, but yeah, overall, I even thought that some of the comments that have focused later in the show have been a great sign that people are listening to the hour-long podcast.
That
and
kills
they didn't even mind the theology. I thought a lot of people would be offended by that. I think it was, for a lot of people, a breath of fresh air, actually talking about those topics.
Yeah, the whole religion thing, that's one that you're going to have a hard time dragging me into at any point in time, because it never ends well. It just never ends well. It's a conversation you're never going to have where you're going to walk away feeling like, unless you're just completely, packed chock full of hubris, you're not going to walk away thinking that, you changed any minds. And it's so unbelievably personal. I'd rather talk about sex life than I would religion, because it is just something that is, you are really treading on somebody's heartstrings when you talk about their faith. And that was one comment we did get on that last week. It's kind of fun doing a review of the comments. Matter of fact, I've thought about doing that on the radio program, is pick X number of comments a week from videos and bringing them to the program and talking about.
Some of them are rich. Some of them are hilarious. We
Yeah,
should.
I know. We should do that, yeah. But somebody did notice and appreciated the fact that I said there's certainly a difference between religion and faith, and I fully believe that. But it's a topic that it never ends well. I've never heard of people having opposite opinions or a group of people with sharing different views about religion that sit there, hash it out, and then it's a kumbaya at the end. It just never happens. So
No, I don't think that you can find, I guess, the definitive answer, but how people respond and how it inspires different people and affects them and their relationships and their lives, and maybe sets moral constructs. Talking about those influences, I think is neutral, or somewhat inert. Shouldn't be too polarizing. And I do think that when you look at people that have different belief systems, they do have different ways that they operate. So, and church has also been tied to the state and has been kind of used and I would say manipulated in this country, especially during the 80s, bringing the Christian right into the Republican neoconservative movement. So there's a lot of things to talk about there that don't really have to do with necessarily convincing somebody that there is or is not something beyond death. Looking at other
and I don't even think we got
tertiary aspects to it, I think are can be interesting anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't even think we got into it under that guise. I mean, we were talking about a control apparatus, and religion absolutely is if memory serves.
Yeah.
We were talking about
Sure.
It uses a controlling, dividing wedge.
Right, and it's not any specific religion. It could be just somebody who proselytizes.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that. But anyway, a lot of people are pretty upset about the Bradley Manning verdict.
Yeah.
So all of this has come to a close. The military judge has pronounced him guilty and has sentenced him to 35 years in jail. Now, that means that he will be eligible for parole in approximately 8 years.
Yeah.
He'll be able to get off, maybe, and it's a military court, so
Well, Doug,
good luck. But
if there's a revolution, he could be out in 6 months. Depending on how that revolution goes, the next revolution. And I say that somewhat jokingly, but you know what? Today's
how
enemy.
so? I mean, do you think that somebody would free him from
Absolutely.
You think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe.
There is absolutely.
I imagine there has to be a divide. A lot of people have to be recanting.
I'd free him.
Huh?
I'd free him in a second. If I was if we had a massive change, a shift, a revolution, and the power structure was torn down, and we were forging towards a new great republic, free republic once again, I'd have Bradley Manning Day. That's a.
Well, history may show him to be more important than the current politicians today. He's going to be a political prisoner for up to at least 8 years.
Yep.
Some of the comparisons: Anders Breivik, he not in the United States, but he killed a lot of people and received 21 years. Of course, some people are saying, well, it's not that harsh, considering what we've given people for non-violent crimes in this country, like drug possession. By the way, Barack Obama made it clear one more time, stoners, that he's not behind the decriminalization of marijuana, no matter what Eric Holder has promised you. So don't get too excited. That's just another a wedge issue, I think. But Bradley Manning is a guy that was very courageous in giving this information. And I mean, I don't know what your personal thoughts are, but I do believe that Julian Assange and some of the people in his cypherpunk group, part of WikiLeaks, kind of went after Bradley Manning and courted him into giving them these documents that I think have, regardless of what you think about the legal aspect to it, have really shed light on what is happening behind closed doors, and from things like trapwire we talked about last week with Barrett Brown, who is still being held without charge and not nearly as much media attention on him. So that's the next evolution in this. But at the same time, we have Major Nassal Hadan, the Fort Hood shooter. He's representing himself. So some other high profile legal battles are in the focus. But people said, well, including myself, that unfortunately this guy told the truth. He did what he thought was right, and we all now know more because of what he did, and he's going to pay the price.
Yeah, he's going to pay the price, and Snowden appears to be a bit smarter because he got out of the country before he flipped the switch on the information dump and put himself in a nation where he knew he was, the extradition was going to be impossible. Look.
Yeah, but you're stuck in Russia, though. Come on, man. I mean, nothing wrong with, St. Petersburg, but, man, you're in Russia.
Going for Ecuador. The beach.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though, Doug. I mean, I spent probably an hour of time today that I shouldn't have reading comments on a news piece that was put out about the Manning verdict. And it kind of blew my mind because it was an establishment site, but I don't know if you've ever noticed taking the time to read comments when there's stories that have to do with liberty or First Amendment or Second Amendment or Patriot Movement or Freedom Movement or Truth Movement. If there's any subject that is in that realm, you will usually see comments that are attached to that truly reflect what I feel the people that are waking up feel. I feel this is their true belief. So you'll see a story like, I'm cruising through Drudge right now, and I'm seeing, this new facial recognition tactics that are coming. And
the boss system.
Yeah. Well, if you read a story like that, more than likely you're going to see comments from people saying, enough is enough, NSA, IRS. They're anti-government. They're anti-government intrusion. They're anti-destruction of Constitution. And you see the reflection in a lot of comments, even to establishment media stories that might even paint a rosy picture on the need for these kind of tactics. Well, the reason I told you all that is because after reading this article today, and there was 800 comments on this story, which is a boatload of comments, and I probably read 100 of them.
Right.
And it was like reading it right out of these people were posting out of the Army College or something. It was, hang this guy, he didn't get enough, and we got to kill him, and blah, blah. I mean, just on down the line about how evil and horrible and horrific Bradley Manning is, and what he did, killed people, cost lives, and it just, I read the article.
Let me guess, you're perplexed, and you're wondering how many of these people are representing real human beings, and how many of these are paid trolls and or just really bored people that like to incite others. And I think that it's 50-50. You have 50% of the people that just like to put insightful things, contrarian things into the comment section just to get the attention and to disturb the conversation. But in that
instance, it would have been my point of view. If I'd have plugged in there, well, wait a minute, boys, here's what I think, and that would have been the contrarian point of view, at least for the first couple pages that I read. And yeah, so I did wonder reading that, is this a bunch of shills writing these feel good pieces about rah patriotism? This guy got what he deserved and got off lucky. But Doug, when I think about that, I think of, look, these people that are typing this, if they're genuine, if they're organic, if they truly believe this, they're typing on a computer that absolutely guaranteed 100% their electronic signature is being tracked. Their electronic footprint is being tracked.
People don't care about that.
I mean, the atrocities that have happened to freedom are bad enough, but let alone the hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people who are no longer breathing because of this phony war on terror, this phony notion of patriotism, invading countries around the world, destabilizing countries around the world. This is barbarism that we're living amongst. Yet, we're going to be pounding the gallows beat for Bradley Manning. It boggles my mind. It is absolutely the epitome of conditioning of a populace. But if you say it enough times, if you say a big enough lie, they're going to believe it. They're going to sit back and just believe this is all red, white, and blue forever. And somebody like this Bradley Manning should be hauled off and shot because he had pangs of guilt watching what was happening in our name.
I might be biased, but wholeheartedly, most of the people I've talked to and that have been watching this that I know, and other people that I work around. I mean, you work around a lot of people that are kind of apolitical, that probably don't participate that much, that are great gauge of what the general public feels about this. And I think most people are kind of, indifferent. They're like, well, there were some crimes, and it's, better that we know, but you paid the price. And I think that was what the narrative that I noticed. That was what the state has been pushing. And that is, well, Daniel Ellsberg stayed here, and he faced the fire. So he was a man, and he took it, and we put him in jail. And Bradley Manning, even though he dressed like a woman, and let's keep showing you pictures over and over of him cross-dressing to get all of those right-wing people that might have maybe sympathized but are disgusted by his overt homosexuality to turn on him at that last moment. All of the conservatives are like, I don't like NSA spying and Big Brother and, a database being kept on my firearms by the NRA turned over to the government, but damn it, I can't stand that boy wearing a blonde wig. Oh, it's disgusting to me, Charlie McGrath.
Yeah, I can deal with anything. You can come in and take my supplies, take my ammunition, but don't put one of them homosexuals out there in front of me. Tell me he gave away the secrets.
Yeah.
That's a non-starter, Doug Owen.
And it might seem trivial and silly to us and most of the people that listen to this show, but that is a topic starter.
Absolutely, it's a dividing issue, and we talked about that. You and I talked about it off air a little bit. That this is going to be played to the hilt, but and it will be. It's just another dividing issue. And you have
notice the LGBT community. Where are you, lesbians, gays? Where are you? Where are you?
Why aren't you coming to the defense of this obviously gay young man being ran roughshod because of his life?
Crime. It's a hate crime.
Yeah, it's a hate crime.
And I'm not one of the people that jumps on that bandwagon either. A lot of people are like, see, yeah, I'm going to use the state against you. Here's a fine example of the state should go ahead and file a hate crime. It's like, no, there should be no hate crimes, because crime, if you're doing it, you have to be doing it because of, I would think, maybe hate if you're killing people. And then you have the government trying to subjectively figure out exactly what it is to hate and how to proportionally give you a sentencing for this. And that whole system has really birthed the prison population that we have, the prison planet that is accelerating and being created right here in the United States of America. So the land of the free and the home of the bravado.
Bravado indeed. And it's a pound that propaganda drum, and like I said, you say it enough, loud enough, long enough, people will just absolutely buy into it. I want to jump, if you don't mind.
Sure, I was going to say that's a great segue into the Syrian chemicals, because I mean that's what's happening now. We have propaganda, and I don't know, Charlie McGrath. I saw Mother Jones today not buying it. Common Dreams, other kind of left-leaning sites, not buying it. Of course, nobody in the conspiracy / I would say far right is buying it. So these fabrications that are tentatively true at best, and once you start just peeling any of the layers of this onion apart, you realize that it's a lemon. And so they keep saying, well, there's chemical weapons, and just happens that there happened to be some UN weapons inspectors, some chemical weapons inspectors, and voila, they've found something. So
not only found. I mean, you have just days after a UN envoy is sent into Syria, and let's keep in mind now. I mean, if we backtrack just a little bit in the history of this, right? This Syria was supposed to go the way, in my opinion, of course, and the opinion of Doomcast and all right-minded people. The Syria was supposed to go the way of Libya, right? We were supposed to have a nice little toppling of the administration, maybe kill Assad on television, and have Hackle and Hillary come on and talking about, the same old mantra. We came, we saw, he died. Right. So that was, I believe, supposed to be how Syria played out. And obviously 2 years later.
We saw, he died.
We butchered him. He bled out on YouTube. It was awesome.
It's almost too delicious to believe, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Secretary of State of the United States.
She's talking to Carlisle. She's getting with those neocons and Zio Warhawk military-industrial complex profiteers, the guys that Eisenhower warned us about. And, well, she knows where her bread's buttered. And she gets her marching orders from the Council on Foreign Relations. And
CFR, baby. CFR certified and approved.
So she's on her way, and I'm sure she's been resting up, and she's probably just getting a little nipping and tucking and tightening, and she's going to look fresh and refreshed for 2016 and this new power shift to Chelsea, who is I don't know if you've been seeing.
God Almighty, do you think for 1 second that
I'm scared. Go ahead.
We don't live in a monarchy? I mean, come on, man.
Bushes and Clintons and Clintons and Bushes and Bushes and Clintons and
we'll throw an Obama in there, but he's a Bush.
You might as I was going to say he's a Clinton, but I mean one and the same.
Yeah, 310 million people, growing by hundreds of thousands of people every month. 310 million, and the best of the brightest are the ones who can get the world to the point where it's quadrillions of dollars worth of fanciful debt floating around, ready to implode the economies of the world, wars on every single front, and continuous one lie after another to throw people into meat grinders. This is the same crew we have to draw from. Oh, this is the same well we go to. Wake up, America. Wake up, West. Wake up, planet. These people are not your representatives. It's too delicious to be true.
Yes, well, we've talked about this before, but it's ultimately the money that flows from the corporatocracy that this fascist system. People try to give it an ism and define it, but it's really just a kind of a hybrid corporatist system is the best description that I think is accurate. But there's plenty of other things that you can call what we have today, but it's not representation with taxation. We can debate if it ever was, but I mean, I don't know if you saw that clip where they had the media lobbyists basically regurgitating word for word the same thing. So these lobbyists had been given their talking points, and anyway, it's just this really overt look at how Hollywood controls our representatives and has more of a say than we do. So that collusion is more than apparent. I think most people, if you look at stats, know this, Charlie McGrath. I don't know if that. See, I used to think, and I want to get your point of view on this, but I used to think that people were ignorant, didn't know that they were being screwed over, and didn't know that we don't live in the land of the home or the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Land of the what?
Yeah.
Hey, that talk.
Yeah, I've been watching Barack Obama on Zillow, trying to get everybody back into buying more homes right now. So that's the latest plan. So maybe that's why I'm taking it back.
You were taking it back there, and now you're back to the front. But here's, are we represented? You know what? No. And do people realize this? Yes. And I've come to the conclusion, Doug Owen, that it's all. When you boil it all down to the what's left in the kettle after you're done boiling, in a lot of cases on both sides of the equation, it is pure and simple selfish greed on either side. And it doesn't matter if you're collecting a check from the government or you're relying on the government to manipulate markets so your investments continue to go forth. You're all on welfare. We're all, I shouldn't say you, I'm going to use the empirical we, are all on welfare of one form or another. If you need proof of this, man, look no further than the Federal Reserve and the note and the thought that they're going to taper off buying debt. And look what happens. Bond prices started to fall. Yields start to rise. The world's in a panic. India's on the verge of collapse. It is controlled from central planners that have turned a nation of arguably, again, we'll do the arguably, a free market into this incestuous, disgusting result that we have today. But at the end of it, you have folks out there on one side or the other waiting for theirs. Like it's never going to turn south. It's never going to go bad. It's always going to be an open spigot. And this is both sides. This is the neocons thinking, oh yeah, war can last forever. I'll keep investing in Raytheon. All the way to the folks that are, receiving more money staying on welfare than they could possibly ever make at a minimum wage job. So, you have both of them just greedily looking for this never-ending flow of free money. The realization is going to hit everybody all at once, right? That we can't do it anymore, and everybody's going to lose everything. And at the end of the day, you'll have the same exact people that brought us these conclusions brought us these results that are still right where they were pre-2007. They're right where they were then. They're right in the same place, making more and more money. They will be the ones who have written the legislation and bankrupt the world, who'll be sitting there in control of everything, including the Fugazi representatives that we vote for, jokingly vote for.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if your vote is counted, that's in question. I'm sure you've seen Bev Harris's Hacking Democracy. It was an HBO documentary, and they've apparently allegedly made some advances in accountability, but I've always thought it's really simple. All you have to do is give the person 2 receipts. These are the same machines that print receipts and are able to transfer trillions of dollars around the world without losing a penny. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. We definitely have the technology. I mean, we can clone and create spider goats, but we can't have an accurate vote count. I just don't buy it. And all you have to do is just give each person 2 receipts, one for themselves in case something goes wrong, in case technology is fouled or we suspect foul play. You have an exit poller, okay, and they look at the receipts and then they count up the receipts, and if 10% of them are correct, then we assume safely that the vote is somewhat secure. Right. And these seem like pretty lenient measures of accuracy and pretty easy to institute. But man, oh man, if you look at the gerrymandering that has happened, it's hilarious. Locally where I live, places, certain neighborhoods in Austin are only represented by people that are actually in districts in San Antonio, literally an hour and a half away. And so, but that's just years and years and years of the political process, to the point where you just have these incumbents that almost cannot be unseated because people are creatures of habit and they continue to vote the same way over and over and over and over again. So,
and you could easily make the argument that even that is irrelevant, especially on a national level, because it really doesn't matter what pond you pull the scum out of, right? If it's the blue pond or the red pond, they're still scum. And there's, this is what you're going to get. So it doesn't matter if we get Hillary next time or if we get a McCain-esque individual. We're still going to get the same military, security, industrial, financial.
Rand Paul?
Rand Paul's he's a vent. Rand Paul is a relief valve. And the people that have followed his father for years ought to be ashamed if they sit there and say, well, this is just continuation of Ron Paul's legacy. It is not. He's playing the game. He's Senator Paul, and he is going to play the game as long as he can to gain as much momentum as he can. So when he comes out and talks to the floor of the Senate or the floor of Congress about the wrongdoing of the NSA, understand something, or the wrongdoing of the infringement of your liberty and your freedom. Understand, he's all for it when the doors are closed, right? And as long as it's under the guise of terrorist activity, he's all for it. He's nothing like his father, and so when I hear people like Ron Paul, or if you pick somebody in a more libertarian leaning or more true conservative or even more true liberal leaning, and you hear this person is being stood up before an audience or before given for an example for a true American trying to find freedom and trying to steer the country on the right course, if it is true, they are completely and totally neutered in Washington, D.C., like Ron Paul was. Yes, he gained some momentum, but he's never going to be heard. He's never going to be allowed to get the kind of legislation passed or even talked about that would truly change our country and put it back on the right course. So our system is dominated by little bitty mini dictators. These individuals who can stay in Washington, D.C. forever, their pockets are filled by special interests. They control legislation that comes to the floor. They control what gets voted on. They control what gets talked about, and they lord over their parties as if they were nothing more than despot dictators. If you want to play ball in the GOP, you're going to vote for war. If you want to play ball in the blue team, then you're going to vote for whatever we say you need to vote for, the dismantling of freedom in this country. So this is what we got, scum and scum. And anybody who has a notion that they're going to go there and change anything, they get gutted like trout.
Well, yeah, you know, and I think that we're seeing that kind of play out in foreign policy as well with Egypt, you know, and Syria, and that
And
is
Syria. I got
these
totally
grand
sidetracked on that.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just these grand delusions of being able to create a central government and trying to create this transition between a dictatorship to democracy. I know that a lot of people like Glenn Beck and others in right-wing talk radio have often said that Barack Obama is an operative working either for and or in the best interest alongside the Muslim Brotherhood, and that that these ties are being very challenged right now with all of what's happening and the basic eradication, assassination, roundup, and political targeting and discrimination against Kurds as well as Morsi supporters in
Right.
Egypt, apparently. I've seen some video footage, and I don't know if you've seen some of this, but there are people asking questions about how much of this may be doctored. We've seen doctored footage come out of war and from sources that the lamestream media doesn't even want to, you know, give legitimacy to alleged sources via YouTube. Talk about the degradation of journalism, where YouTube are being quoted as sources for mainstream media, but you know, we were talking about this at the beginning, and that is that a lie that's repeated enough, and there's been variations of that. Many people have used that, including Hitler, who famously said, you know, the biggest lies are the easiest ones for people to believe in, and he got that from many others before him that have parroted that idea, and we're kind of seeing that play out.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt, and it's hard to understand. It's hard to understand if you look at this stuff every day, right? And I just did a video before we sat down to do this tonight, and it's about are we backing, are we supporting Syrian slaughter? And the question is, are we supporting the perpetrator of this chemical attack? If assuming the chemical attack happened, now I don't know if you watch some of the videos that came out today, lots and lots and lots of them of kids. They're dead. I mean, you're not going to get a room full of kids to lay there and fake death. These are
But
dead
how did
children.
they die? I mean, we really don't know. I mean, I'm willing to give most credible journalists, the few that are there, at least a little bit of a grain of salt. But
Well, I can tell you that they're not dead from being blown apart by shrapnel. So they weren't shot. I don't know how they died. I mean, I assume some of the videos
I guess the
are.
question really is, of course, it's always the chain of evidence. Who
Right.
actually did this? Can we
Right.
actually prove that this is Assad, or is this the Free Syrian rebels, the FSA?
Right, and that's where I take this story from. That point, I'm going to assume that these videos that are out there of scores and scores, hundreds of dead men, women, children, are recent, and it actually are killed by the use of chemical weapons of one form or another. So that is the premise. You have to ask yourself, do you believe establishment media, who is reporting, regurgitating what the Free Syrian Army, which, let's be real clear, these are the same folks we've been shooting at, right, Doug, Owen? I mean, these are the same folks in Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra. These guys are the Purple Finger revolutionaries that come in and butcher and maim and kill, and we support them as freedom fighters over and over and over again. Is it this group of folks who is claiming the government did it, or is it the government claiming that this group of folks did it? The true answer is we don't know, but we'd be foolish to believe the official narrative coming out on this story. And common sense would say that somebody who's doing everything he can, Assad, trying to stay in power, for 2 years fighting this war, 2 years of nonstop conflict with the entire international community dead set against him, except for potentially Russia and China. Is he going to launch a chemical weapon attack that's going to kill more people than any time since Saddam Hussein unleashed it on the Kurds, or used in, back to World War I, up to 1,300 plus dead men, women, and children? Is he going to launch that kind of attack 72 hours after the UN shows up to investigate him for other alleged attacks that happened months and years ago?
Well, who benefits from it? I mean, ultimately, it's key bono.
We'll find out. We'll find out. That's why I said to you today, when you and I were messaging back and forth, and you had mentioned to me, rightfully so, that even establishment media, if you go to CNN or Fox or any of these websites right now, that story, 1,500 people dead, maybe dead kids wrapped up in blankets on video, that isn't number one. I mean, it's down the list. So, and you had mentioned to me today that even establishment is backing away from this one, and I said, let a couple news cycles go, and let's see what happens. I mean, it was a chemical attack that was the so-called red line that Obama used in order to say it was time to start arming these rebels in Syria. So let's see what a couple news cycles bring. I mean,
I think what's really screwed all of this up is that they don't have the credibility, because they have the awareness of the populace that the CIA, the DIA are on the ground with Mossad, with MI6, with the French troops, working with al-Nusra, working with these groups. We've had different terrorist designations that has changed our financing of these groups, but you have John McCain there on the ground giving these guys money. So there's no question as to who the United States supports openly, overtly, and what are we willing to do at this point? If we reach a stalemate, at some point you need something to move this along, because this ember is starting to, the smoke is clearing, and shy of something like this red line with chemical weapons, no one, I think, has a lot of interest in this relationship, and in really, go ahead.
Exactly, though. That's exactly the point. That without something like the red line being trampled, right, and 1,300 people dead, without something like that,
like blatantly chemically blasting your populace while the UN's there watching with video equipment.
Exactly. So without something over the top outrageous like that, how do you move the New World Order agenda along inside this region of the world? Because you nailed it on the head. You have one failed lie after another. Libya and Benghazi, and we have weapons of mass destruction all the way through to present, lies being used all the way through that time till now to get us to invade these countries. So it's almost as if you have to have something super duper bad, that's technical terminology, super duper bad, in order to facilitate the no-fly zone in Syria, or boots on the ground in Syria. So you got to ask yourself, when you see something like 1,300 dead, 5 minutes after the UN shows up, it happens to be just 20 miles away from where they showed up, you got to scratch your head and say, okay, is this a push? Are they tired of waiting inside of Syria? The last thing that you would think, that, at least me, Doug, in my conspiratorial mindset, the last thing is what's being reported to be true. The last thing is that the Syrian government launched this attack on this suburb to beat down these rebels and to show them who's boss by unleashing chemical carnage on them. That's just my opinion. To me, that narrative is the least likely to have unfolded.
Right. If logic serves, and it doesn't always serve, I've seen plenty of examples, but yes, with any kind of desertion whatsoever, you would think that would be ultimately the most likely thing, and so does most of the people in the world, Charlie McGrath. So you're not alone any longer. And the U.S. credibility. I mean, I remember when I first started blacklisted.news.com, and people, there was only a few big sites that were even entertaining 9/11 truth, or looking at what happened at Waco, the Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, you could count them on your hand, and so it wasn't popular. You didn't have nearly as much dissent, and you didn't have as much local in independent media online. So many of the things that we take for granted now used to be very taboo and almost dangerous to say. I know a lot of people, always claim.
Still is.
Well, I mean, it's dangerous in if you have some secret documents that are given to you by Bradley Manning, but I don't think the government's going to come kill you or I for him and hawing and talking about.
They're not going to come after us bitching about reality, right?
Right.
Who knows? Maybe, I mean,
if you can change reality, and I'm not saying that this isn't powerful information.
Wait a minute, because I don't know that that's true, Doug.
Well, there. See, there you done did it. You done did it.
I shut it down, didn't I? I shut it down.
I thought they got you.
Yeah, I got so excited I hit the mic and hit the switch. I was gonna say what I said was I don't know if that's true that we won't be targeted for not only us, the folks that are downloading this.
No, everybody's targeted. They already know about your political affiliations.
But if you and I are sitting here, if I'm sitting here, I'm going to speak for myself, not Doug Owen of blacklistednews.com. This is Charlie McGrath of wideawakenews.com speaking for himself. When I say that, is it crossing a line in the current atmosphere where I say, you know what? No, I think it was America who supported these terrorists inside of Syria that turned around and launched a chemical attack that killed a bunch of kids. And I think, vis-a-vis collusion, this is on the heads, on the backs of we the people, because we keep buying the lies over and over again. Did I just give aid and comfort, to an enemy? Because, NDAA 2012 and all the other endless flow of legislation that is describing every act imaginable as being a potential terrorist activity, I just don't know. I don't know if I just crossed a line and if I can be expected to be held accountable for it.
Probably not, but you could always cite Section 215 of the Patriot Act and the the legal interpretations thereof by the Supreme Court. Then the reality of what would happen, because laws and things like that are often skirted. We see that in just about every aspect of our lives today. Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, well, they skirted the law. Well, why wouldn't they? Everyone skirts the law. Laws are only there for people that want to follow them. Laws,
or they're there to make skirt the law. That's why
corporate. I'll give you an example.
Everything we're doing, everything in this, everything's. You said it last week. How many times a day do we commit a felony? Everything's illegal. So when it's a carte blanche by enforcement, right? They will find, if they want Doug Owen out of here, guess what? You're gone. You're gone.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, look at Michael Hastings. I don't think it was a grand conspiracy from central government to kill him. But when you piss off a general that has tons and tons of friends in very high places, that has multi-million-dollar contracts with companies that their expertise is in assassination and killing people for the government, yeah, you might get whacked.
I smell a segue.
Well, now actually, I was kind of just leading into this whole idea. I was just going to mention the notion that laws actually prevent people from committing crimes, and that if we have more laws to protect people, that those laws will ultimately protect them. And time again, we see that how different it is between what it should be and what it actually is, the reality of the situation.
Right.
And so I was just.
I think laws are designed, as far as the overall view of war on terror, 9/11, the Patriot Act, everything that's come out since then, and not only in the realm of the military security industrial complex, but in the realm of the financial industrial complex, everything is geared for the path of least resistance for a person that calls themselves an American is to just shut up and put your head in the sand and pretend it ain't happening here. Because, that is the path of least resistance. You could be part of the game, part of the process, part of the party, pound the drums of war, and everything's going to be just fine. But if you think what your country is doing, if you break through the lie of the red and the blue, and you think what's happening in your country is an assault on humanity, what's happening in your name is an assault on humanity, you've just entered into dangerous territory, and you need to be forewarned of that. So if this podcast is sent to somebody that is peripheral between reality or between establishment and independent media, and understand that. We can't sugarcoat it. Once you get to the point where you understand the propagandist, you understand the message, and you understand the never-ending stream of lies and how this leads to virtual and literal death, then you need to understand that knowing this information in of itself can potentially be dangerous, Doug Owen.
Information is dangerous. You think, therefore, you're dangerous. If you have a contrarian viewpoint, if you don't think that the government's doing the right thing with your money, of course you're targeted, and you're going to get subpar health care. You're going to be, people are, oh no, the government would never ration health care based on political affiliation. Oh please, oh my goodness, please, you make me blush if you believe that. It's ridiculous.
I need you. I know we have about 15 minutes or so left here, and you brought a story to my attention today, and I'm going to jump right into it. And I thought you were talking about the general and how they know powerful people, and when powerful people get mad, guess what? People die. And I wanted to jump into the story that you sent me today because I read that, and it was. I just didn't follow the Lady Di thing that much, and that, of course, I'm talking about. That
was real big when I got into the conspiratorial news business, if you will, or just reading blogs. That was a big conspiracy.
Break it down for me.
Well, I mean, we all know the story. Princess Diana was divorcing her prince, and Prince Charles was very upset and distraught about this, and had made threats publicly to friends and to her, according to close friends and others that did put their name on the record, that came out after her death and did point directly to the royal family in this great dishonor that came about when she basically did something that was unprecedented, and that was to walk away from the royal family to change that. It was a really big deal. I mean, I remember my aunt, and she probably still to this day, I haven't been to her house in a while, but she collected those Princess Diana plates. They were like a very, very important thing to 80s pop culture. No, and I'm sure, that they're all reptiles as well. I mean, the Windsor family, they don't sweat, and they like to sleep on cold rocks for some reason. No, but I mean, to the greater point, there's always been the rumor, or at least, and there's a lot of other iconography and symbology that happened that I think that's intentional disinfo that's put out around surrounding these type of events to get people that are really looking for an alternative to what is being told, the alternative to the narrative. They find wacky, crazy things, and that's usually what I found. But now we have this guy. His name is Danny Nightingale. And they caught him with a sniper rifle. They caught him with a bunch of ammunition. And basically, after they shook him down, we find out this guy is former British SAS. So he's special forces. He's an assassin. He's a sniper. And he's laying out how the SAS took a hit on Princess Diana and killed her. And so, I mean, this is something that people... conspiracy theorists have said for quite some time, saying that this looks like a targeted attack, a hit on Princess Di. And you think about all the people in the highest positions of power, authority, the richest people in the world, and it's no wonder that there was very little investigation. But now, what is it? The Stockland, or what do they call it? The Yard.
Scotland Yard?
Yeah, Scotland Yard. There you go.
Yeah.
They're looking into this with the Royal Police. So it's an interesting turn. Maybe this guy's full of crap. I don't know. But, it's been rumored. People have been talking about this for a long time. A lot of research that I've read into this really does, raise hairs.
Well, and it isn't just, and I'm not an expert. I'm not even a novice on the whole Lady Di, Prince Chuck. I do know that she was dating Al Fared or whatever his name was, and very, very rich family. And the reason I know that is because I remember watching an interview of his father, and he's absolutely, adamantly, 100%, and very convincing in making the argument that his kid, along with Diana and the driver, let's not forget the poor driver who's dead too,
Right.
were murdered. They were killed. And, so I read this story he sent me today, and it's interesting. It's, nothing would surprise me, especially on the level of these uber crazy elites, right? Like, it boggles my mind how many Americans are still just wrapped up in the English royal family.
Well, look at this. I mean, we've had a lot of stuff like this happening. Okay, you had the disclosure of Area 51 where they tested drones. Yeah. We have the declassification of the CIA coup to remove Mohammed Mossadegh in Iran. That was declassified this week. Yep. You have this. You have now TWA 800, which a lot of people thought a missile took it down. Some of the eyewitnesses saying that they saw a surface-to-air missile shoot this plane down. Now we're starting to see admissions looking into that. There's going to be a documentary film. So a lot of these things I've noticed that were depleted uranium now getting a lot of mainstream media coverage, and the inability of the state to hide the things that have happened in places like Fallujah, where you have the absolute poisoning of the people.
Why do you think this is? I mean,
it's a change in the lexicon. It's a change in the lexicon, and that means that we're going to see a huge political paradigm shift. And you see it with Glenn Beck. He's more conspiratorial. You now have this sanctioned conspiratorial right-wing radio genre with Alex Jones and with Michael Savage all promoting one another. The Drudge Report. So is that all collusion? I'm not trying to make that claim, but you do have that shift, that focus, and to those people that are looking at different things, and each one taking it maybe a step further, with Alex Jones going to false flag terrorism, what happened at Waco, Oklahoma City bombing, those events, and pointing to U.S. sponsored state terrorism, whereas Glenn Beck will go quite almost there with Benghazi. Michael Savage still, a neocon, war hawk, Zionist, self-admitted, unapologetically Zionist. So you're starting to see the influence of Israel in a lot of conspiratorial politics as well. That I think it's kind of an interesting take in that, because.
But at the end of the day, Doug, I mean, at the end of the day, though, nothing's going to change, right? Because the same people.
Well, but the media is changing, so you are seeing that shift.
So what? The media. First of all, as we talked last week, the media is whatever the powers that be soon are going to say what the media is. In order to participate as a member of the media. But
I don't know about that. I don't think they're going to be able to do that.
A lot of people. I think there'll be a lot of people who. I honestly think aggregate sites like yours and mine, our days are numbered. And I think that they'll eventually take copyright laws and take infringement and take it to the place where it just isn't worth it to try to make sure you're not going to receive a subpoena to end up in court so you can give away everything you've ever done.
I don't know, because you look at most new organizations, they just repeat the same thing. You get your writer, they get a couple extra sentences, they all quote the same documents. Blurb, 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 and here's something the New York Times said. Blurb, 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 here's something the LA Times said. And the Huffington Post is a fine example. Drudge Report is a fine example of as well of the changes to media and the direction and the flow of people to getting media now.
I agree with this.
And I do think that is forward of the ability of people like Dianne Feinstein and other witches and warlocks in the Congress and Senate's ability to actually regulate technology. And let's be honest, most people, just like yourself, we read a little bit of the article, but what we really want to read are all of those juicy comments at the bottom with people trashing one another and talking crap. So, as long as you have the internet and you have people that have opinions, that's the whole point of it. If you can't have dissent, it hasn't worked in China. China has had to pretty much concede. A lot of the filters have been enabled to keep kids who can get through just about anything. If they want to get, it's just like a prisoner in a jail. They want drugs. They're going to find smack. Same thing with kids.
I'm not saying that information isn't going to be out there, that people won't be able to go and search and find. Maybe you can't aggregate anymore. Maybe you can't pull a New York Times story, put that headline on your website, and have it there verbatim. So you write a blurb, you put there.
Oh, well, I don't think you can do that now. You better put a read more link or
well,
you better
even if you source them, though. Even if you source them now, that's completely fine. I mean, you can have, we both do it. We have their headlines, and you have a piece of the article and then read more.
Well, see, I'll give you a counter to this. The New York Times and other pieces, and even alternative media are now using the same tactic where they take all the images and they link it back to their story. So if you click on any of the copied images, it goes right back to their website, and every one of those source links goes back to their website. So I think that rather than wasting their time, which is unprofitable, and that is chasing down people and legislating and lobbying to have the government chase down people, which some of them can, big, huge news organizations do have influence and can do that to a certain extent, or the alternative, which is cheaper, easier, and more likely to make them more revenue, is just to make it so that when people do copy their stuff, it's nothing but a big freaking advertisement for the New York Times. And that I think that is going to be the transitional model, because still people are going right back to these different originating organizations like the Guardian, the Washington Post, the LA Times, the New York Times. Those organizations are working in collusion with the DIA, with the CIA. They have most of these large ones. Admittedly, they do have CIA and military liaisons. So you already have the military and the CIA in these news organizations that are on the internet. So they're the ones that are being quoted. The Guardian has. Then
if what you say is true, if what you say, the direction we're on, which sounds great, you have an unfettered internet where you can exchange your information, exchange your ideas. If what you say is true, why so much effort, so much attention, and so much pressure to regulate this thing to the point that it is not only possible but not even feasible for the average person who's not.
It's all fear. I mean, go back to the movie industry. They thought it was all over when the VHS and the Betamax came out. Oh my God, people are going to go home. They're never going to they're never going to go out to movies again. They're going to record TV, and Robin Williams is going to get paid $10 instead of 10 million. Boo hoo, wah wah. Well, what happened? Well, they realized, hey, it really didn't affect the market nearly as much as they thought, and many of the perceptions that they had were incorrect, and ultimately, the Hollywood, I would arguably say, is more powerful than the American people. The people are at the mercy of this organization that thought and freaked out about the VHS and every one of the different mechanisms that they had to try to scramble and prevent people from copying tape to tape. Was subverted. It didn't matter. I mean, you scrambled.
This is what I know. Video killed the radio star.
Well, things change. I mean, there's no Kodak Polaroid drive-through Photoshop anymore. You just.
Boy, it's amazing. They even sell film anymore.
No. I do see disposable cameras, underwater cameras, and things that you can buy at vacation spots and at stores.
Guess what?
Those won't be around long.
The new Galaxy 4 will do just that. I can make a phone call and take a picture under 3 meters of water.
Yeah, well, I can buy one of these for $3. A Galaxy 4 runs me probably $500, $600 without a contract. So,
I got a company phone. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well,
right,
perks, my friend.
The media, I disagree with you on the ease of the clampdown on the free exchange of information and ideas. I don't believe for one second that rabble rousers such as yourself and myself and the folks listening, the folks who spread true information and reality through the internet, I don't believe that they are just scared of that. I think they absolutely have an agenda to control that. And Doug, it is more oppressive, the nonstop information flow of the number one terror threat that we're facing going forward in the future is cyber terrorism. We are beat down with that constantly, nonstop. I mean, it's even more aggressive than, the spread of physical terrorism. I do believe that regulating this media, regulating the exchange of information and idea is a top priority of the New World Order elite. They've said it, man. We've talked about this before.
No, I don't disagree with you. I just don't think that, that many of these people like Zygmunt Brzezinski, who wrote, who wrote the book, the Technotronic Era. I don't think that those people are going to be in charge of it. I mean, you have the NSA. I'll give you an example. The NSA decided to get rid of 90% of their analysts. So what does that tell hackers? Hey, the government doesn't value you either. And most of the people that work for the government in that capacity are only doing it because they're forced to. Same thing with, the media. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of credibility, so people aren't going to believe it. I don't care how much they control it. People don't believe it. Now, does that change things? I mean, not necessarily. I don't think that most people in, just, throw out a despot dictatorship believe that their government's good.
United States of America.
They probably think, well, the United States of America is always the bad guy for every dictator to rail against for all of their domestic problems. Hugo Chavez is a perfect example of that. Rail against the United States, but enjoy all of those oil revenues. Don't stop the oil wells. Now, we can talk crap and say that it smells like sulfur when, he goes to the UN, but whole different story when they start talking about, well, Exxon, I think Chevron, or maybe it's Exxon, one of the two is being rousted by the Ecuadorians. So there are some shifts in the energy sector. But, I mean, just going back to the point here is that the government has to maintain credibility. The media has to maintain that credibility. And if they don't allow people like you and I and other rabble rousers to blow off steam, they know that they're going, through all of the breads and circuses as well. If they don't have all of those things to keep and occupy the American people, keep them happy with living on food stamps, maybe making more than $15 an hour or equivalent of that. People are getting upset about that kind of stuff, and those are huge stories. We didn't even get to that. We
did it, and there was a couple. There was a couple that we can get to, and we could probably debate this all night. And you know what? At the end of the day, it might be completely irrelevant.
Well, I welcome them trying this because then they show themselves for who they are, and then I don't have to do it. I don't have to continue to tell people, hey, the government's trying to limit your free speech, because then the government will be limiting their free speech. And so it will be it will be self-evident. It will be a
and as you and I have talked, the more self-evident a prison becomes, it's shocking and disgraceful how many people just don't care. They want the prison the
people
way
will
it
get
is.
used to it. I think about this all the time. I think about the people that live
They're used
in
to it now, man. They're used to it now. If you'd have told a businessman 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that the dictates of the market would be 100% depending on how much debt this government was going to buy on a monthly basis, they would think, man, what are you? This isn't communist Russia. That doesn't happen here in America. But yet here we are. We have the media who glorifies the godlike nature of Ben Bernanke and the Federal Reserve, it's completely flipped. It's completely flipped the script from 2006 even. Yet we're just used to it, and the market will go up tomorrow. Oh, maybe the Fed will come out and say that they're going to continue to buy debt and they're not going to taper off and things will be better. That is why I talked about early in the program that if you are bought into this system at one end or the other, you are on welfare, and you need to realize it isn't healthy. It isn't healthy for you. It isn't healthy for your nation. It isn't healthy for the planet to maintain this status quo of this controlled economy, Doug Owen.
Well, that's true. And you have a controlled media, you have a controlled economy, and it's because they all are at the behest of the dollar. That's why most people are motivated to do whatever it is that they do. So for you out there that have made it to the end of the show, congratulations. If you want to hear more independent media where you don't have commercials, you're not being pushed into buying some product that may or may not enrich or help your life. You're going to get honest assessments from real people that do care about the future of this country, then you need to support them, i.e. you need to help myself and Mr. McGrath here by spreading the word, foremost, letting other people know that we do this podcast and they should check it out. And hopefully it entertains and informs and gets people having their own conversations just like this about the media, because these are the most important topics, the internet, the future of it, that we will know in our lifetimes. The biggest transition that people of our generation, Charlie, our children, and even our previous ancestors will ever know is probably the internet. And the people that are regulating it are we've used a lot of adjectives tonight to describe them, but I'll leave you with that. Vote with your dollar. Your vote may not count. It may be stolen by an electronic voting machine, but when you vote with your dollar, you do have those controls. Those dollars are the same dollars that control people in media and those that are working at you and your family's disinterest. So that's where we all have power with our voices and with our pocketbooks. So consider that. And hey, I'm looking forward to next week. We have the 5th Doomcast coming up, and we've got a lot of
DC5, baby.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things to kind of think about. We've been toying with other ideas with guests, maybe bringing other people on. So we do want your feedback. And I guess the best place to do that is at your YouTube page, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this on YouTube and you have suggestions on how you'd like to see the format proceed, then put it in there, and if there's serious good ideas, then we'll talk about them. And Doug, I think we ought to do that. I think we ought to pull. Listen, if you're listening on YouTube and you've made it to this point, you're an hour and 5 minutes into this thing. Is that roughly right?
Or so, yes, right about that.
And you deserve to have your comments read next week on DC5, because I think that would be very, very interesting and entertaining. And a good way to participate with the folks listening. If you're listening and you have comments on how you'd like to see the program proceed, be it video, be it guest, be it whatever, or you have thoughts or commentary on tonight's topics, then leave it in as a comment. We'll pick half a dozen of them maybe next week, Doug, and we'll read them. What do you think?
The best, the brightest, and of course the most comical, and maybe a couple really, really sad ones, or critical. I think we shouldn't just find the ones that are gushing. We should find some very critical ones. So
I only want the gushing. I'm going to read the
come on. I can sit here and just gush all day long and shower you with comments. What's the point of that?
Only true a-holes are going to get read. You want to go that way?
No, not at all. Not at all. You don't have to provoke.
Make up my mind.
You don't have to provoke these people.
No, really, we seriously want your feedback on this project. Doug and I we really look forward to Wednesday nights putting this thing on. We really like the fact that we can talk about whatever we want to talk about for an hour, and there's no interruption whatsoever. We really appreciate the thousands of people who are listening to it every single week, and we really do want your ideas on how you'd like to see it proceed, format, guests, do we want them, topics, you name it, put it out there. We'll definitely talk about it. Doug, Owen?
I think that's it. All right. Well, we just need a little bit of outro music, and we'll be good to go here. You can follow us on Twitter. Of course, Charlie's handle is Wide Awake News. You can follow me at Blacklisted News, and the show at Doomcast Show. Till next time, take care.
Right on, brother. Talk to you then.
Yes, sir.